In the magnetism lab, you will use a Hall probe, that's this thing, to measure magnetic fields caused by a permanent magnet, a coil, the Earth's magnetic field, and also there's a big coil here. It's a rectangular coil that we're going to pretend is a straight wire. So you're going to measure the magnetic field in the proximity of the wire holding the Hall probe in the middle. So here is the Hall probe. The end here has a sensor that measures magnetic fields. There is a switch that you can switch between 0.32 millitesla and 6.4 millitesla. You should leave it on the 6.4 millitesla setting. And then you also have here a holder, and I'll show you how to use this in a little bit. There is a compass, there is a dip needle, and you will measure various things. First thing is the Earth's magnetic field. So you will connect the Hall probe to channel 1 of Lab Pro over there, and then load up the magnetism lab on Logger Pro, and using the Hall probe away from any other magnets, move it about and measure the magnetic field of the Earth and see where it is maximum or see where it is minimum. So whenever you get to a maximum or a minimum, hold it there for a little bit and then reverse the direction so that you can measure the extremes of the magnetic field, and the difference between them will give you the strength of the magnetic field. You will notice that it's not centered at 0. That's because there is an offset that you will have to take care of in the calculations. Then you will turn on the power supply, and the ammeter has to be set in the 10 amps mode. And I don't know if you noticed, as soon as I turned on the current in the power supply, the dip needle right here started turning. So what you want to do is use the compass and move the compass around the wire and see how the compass turns in the direction of a magnetic field. So remember that with magnetic fields, you place your thumb in the direction of the current, and the magnetic field then curls around in the direction of your fingers. So that's what the compass is trying to tell you, that the direction of the magnetic field keeps changing as it goes around. Then you will want to actually measure the magnetic field given off by the straight wire. So I think the simplest way to do this is to set up your Hall probe in this holder. Be very gentle, the tip bends, but please do not bend it because it can break. So put this in like this. This loosens up and then tightens back in. And then there are various measurements you have to take. So I have my meter stick here. And you are asked to measure the magnetic field when the coil is at, I have to remove some things out of the way, when the coil is 1.5 centimeters away from the Hall probe, then 3 centimeters away, 5, 8, and 12. So it's best to move the coil rather than moving the Hall probe, because with the Hall probe you will pick up other magnetic fields around the room, but if you just move the coil, you just measure the magnetic field of the wire. So again, you go to 1.5, 3, 5, 8, 12, and then when you reach 12, turn this off so that you can measure the background magnetic field, as it were, and then you can subtract that value from all of your data so that you get rid of the offset in the magnetic field. So that's one thing you have to do. The other, since I'm working by myself, I don't have enough hands here. I'm going to show you how I figured out to measure the magnetic field in the coil and in the permanent magnet. So you're told to hold this vertically, but I can't do that. I can't hold too many things at once and press enter in Logger Pro. So I decided to do this thing. So Let's move things out of the way a little bit. Here we go. So my Hall probe is over there. I'm going to insert the coil here and then plug it in. So I put some current in here. Then turn on the power supply. So I have to start at 5 centimeters. So that would be here, separation of 5 centimeters. And then I have to start my my Logger Pro, then move this down to 7 centimeters, move this to 9 centimeters, 11, and wait for a plateau to form in Logger Pro. Move on to 13 centimeters, and when you reach 13 centimeters, turn this off again to see the background magnetic field that you're going to subtract from your data. So after you measure the magnetic field of the coil, you're going to use the permanent magnet, and again, I'm going to put it in here and measure the magnetic field at 1.5, 3, I'm sorry, I think we're starting at 5 actually. So 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Hold it in place while watching Logger Pro and make sure that you see a nice plateau before you move on to the next one, because you'll have to measure the average magnetic field in the plateaus in Logger Pro and measure plot the magnetic fields versus the distance from the object to the Hall probe. So that's pretty much all you have to do. Just make sure that you remove all other magnets from the presence of, so if you're measuring the magnetic field of the coil, don't hold the magnet anywhere close to it, just move it somewhere else so that it doesn't affect your calculations. The compass and the dip needle also have magnetic fields in them, they're magnets, so try to keep those away from the equipment as well.